I'm Bobby Jindal, governor of Louisiana. Tonight, we witnessed a great moment in the history of our republic. In the very chamber where Congress once voted to abolish slavery, our first African-American president stepped forward to address the state of our union.
That was Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal's big entree into national politics, his big moment to step forward as a leader in the post-George W. Bush Republican Party. And thanks to his delivery in that speech, the Republican response to President Obama's first joint address to Congress, Bobby Jindal is probably most well known as a Republican who got made fun of by Kenneth Page from 30 Rock.
I'm Bobby Jindal, governor of Louisiana.
This Jindal guy sounds like a real goober, notorial representative.
I always felt actually terrible for Governor Jindal after that. I really did, because he's a serious guy. I mean, talking on TV is difficult. I have to do it occasionally, and it doesn't always go as well as I would like it to. And Bobby Jindal was in a very, very tough time slot. Following the president after his first address to a joint session of Congress, it is hard to make that look good. As for me, I like Bobby Jindal. Jindal is a politician after my own heart. He's a wonk. Most politicians get into politics and then, sort of as a nasty side effect, have to learn about policy too. Jindal did policy first. He's a Rhodes Scholar who focused on health policy at Oxford. He worked in the Health and Human Services Department in the George W. Bush administration. He does real policy work. I don't always agree with his work, but he takes it seriously. But here's the thing. There are things that people do to you that sort of undermine you as a serious political player, like, say, teasing you for your folksy delivery during a high-pressure primetime speech. Then there are the things you do to yourself, like, say, undermining your own credibility by tossing around nonsense like this.
I suspect that many in the Obama administration really don't believe in private enterprise. At best, they see business as something to be endured so that it can provide tax money for government programs.
That was Bobby Jindal speaking at a CPAC regional conference on Friday, whereupon he took it upon himself to destroy his reputation as a serious policy guy, or at least harm it. Because that was Bobby Jindal launching into the kind of ridiculous on its face hyperbole that he is more than smart enough to recognize for what it is. And it's clear why he's doing it. In Republican Party circles, everybody is doing it. This is now a GOP litmus test. There are two things you must loudly proclaim if you want to be a national Republican in today's party. One is taxes should never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, 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 never go up. Ever. Never. And the other is that Barack Obama is super crazy anti-business.
I can't imagine a more anti-business president than the one we've got right now.
It has been an anti-business, anti-investment, anti-jobs agenda.
President Obama doesn't understand this basic reality. You can't be pro-jobs and anti-business.
What we have in Washington today is a president and an administration that doesn't like business.
The anti-business, anti-market, anti-capitalism rhetoric.
It was the most anti-small business administration I've seen probably since Carter.
This is certainly the most anti-business administration since the Carter years.
America is on the cusp of having a government-run economy. That's where he's taking us. President Obama is transforming America into something very different than the land of the free and the land of opportunity.
You know, I could be wrong, but I think Republicans might believe Barack Obama is anti-business, I think. This is the Republican line of attack this election year. President Obama, anti-business president. He's so anti-business, in fact, that according to Mitt Romney's dystopian vision, soon we won't even have a private economy. But if President Obama is so anti-business, if he's engineering a hostile government takeover of the entire economy, he's hiding it very, very well, because President Obama's policies have, in fact, been very pro-business. Let's look at what can't lie. Let's look at what has happened in the corporate private business world in the Obama presidency. Here's what corporate income tax receipts have looked like over the years. See that part on the right-hand side of the chart where corporate tax receipts plunge? That's a recession. It's also when Barack Obama is becoming president. Now, check this out, the other piece of the puzzle. This is corporate profits over time. The corporate bottom line seems to be in pretty good shape. In fact, look at 2010. Corporate profits as a percent of GDP, even after taxes, were at their highest level since 1966. These profit margins do not look to be suffocating under some super-duper anti-business political regime. But hey, maybe Republicans think business is simply really resilient, and it's just bravely resisting all of President Obama's anti-business policies by chalking up record profits. So fine. Let's look at some of the actual business policies. Practically, the very first thing Obama had to do after winning the election, before he'd ever been sworn into office, was to go to Congress and say, hey, I need you to pass the hideously unpopular second round of TARP bailout money to save the private financial industry. And he did that knowing it was going to be on his record, that everyone would hate him for that because everybody hated TARP. But he did it because if he hadn't, if the bailout hadn't gone through, we would have been in danger of losing our banking system, at which point private businesses would not have been able to access capital anymore. Obama could have gone in a somewhat different direction by listening to the many economists who told him to temporarily nationalize the banks, but he didn't. Left them under private management. Then he had to usher through the auto bailout, which at the time was also not popular, which Mitt Romney, even though he now denies it, said we shouldn't do, said the government should stay out of the auto business, leave it to the private bankruptcy market, which didn't have the ability to finance them through bankruptcy at that point. So that was the auto business implosion that could have been, but Barack Obama saved it because he doesn't hate business. For a guy who's supposed to be the most anti-business president, Obama's taken actually quite a lot of risks to help private businesses to keep them running. In fact, if you account for a key corporate tax break passed under the Obama administration, the effective corporate tax rate, the amount businesses actually pay in taxes, that was just 12% last year. 12%. The Wall Street Journal, that known bastion of communism, points out that that was the lowest corporate tax rate since 1972. And if Republicans had helped Obama pass the employer-side payroll tax cut he proposed for 2012 as part of the American Jobs Act, business taxes would be even lower this year. So if we're going to have a real serious discussion about Obama's policy, one criticism people can actually make of President Obama is arguably he's been too pro-business. He spent too much time trying to pass corporate tax cuts and rescuing banks and too little time rescuing homeowners or trying to get corporations out of American healthcare choices. Maybe he's been too quick to come to accommodation with big corporations. That's fine. We can have that debate. It would be a rational thing to debate. We can have real discussions about whether or not President Obama has had the right approach to business and economic policies. He's been too soft on corporations or too hard on them. People have different visions of this kind of thing, different ideas. But the idea that he has some sort of standing bias against the very concept of private enterprise, that he somehow only tolerates private enterprise because it provides tax revenues, is out there somewhere beyond excessive exaggeration, beyond political one-liners. That's crazy town. The argument is that President Obama's administration look at all of these electronics, at these Mac laptops they love, and think, man, I wish that corporation didn't exist to make all these things, but at least we get taxes from them. That's the argument Governor Jindal, trying to appeal to his base, is making about the president and his policies. But Governor Jindal knows better than that, partly because he's a serious policy guy who can run a spreadsheet. Probably because no one actually thinks like that. Not even China thinks like that today. To find somebody who thinks like that, you need to fire up your hot tub time machine and send it from the Soviet Union circa 1972. And Governor Jindal knows that, too. He knows that what he's saying about President Obama's policy is, frankly, a little bit wackadoo. But Bobby Jindal's Republican in 2012. And at this point, rattling off wingnut-level hyperbole about the commie-pinko Democratic president is a Republican Party prerequisite this year. Even, unfortunately, for the policy guys.